Is Marvel heading to an adamantium war? Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk all things major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much, much more. I'm your host, Chris, and just a few videos ago, we talked about the possibility of adamantium playing a very important role in the new and upcoming Captain America New World Order movie, which will be coming out in the later half of Phase 5. This leak specifically, which we'll recover briefly, talked about how a scene from the Eternals has enabled the possibility for adamantium to cover the planet Earth and potentially the universe, and that's a major factor moving into the New World Order, that whoever controls this metal can control the world based off of the ability, power, and overall expensiveness that this metal possesses. Not to mention the very important Marvel history and details that we know from the comics that go along with adamantium and its properties. So today we're going to talk about what the future of the MCU will look like, assuming that this leak was real, and really dive into some of the further details and properties of adamantium that you may not be familiar with if you're not an avid comic reader. So stick to the end of the video if you'd like to see how this metal sits and fits in the MCU moving forward, and learn a little bit more about its history. If you haven't already, consider subscribing and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the other major movie and television news updates happening here daily on the channel. You can also follow me on my other socials, Instagram at Chris M. Rosser and Twitter at TheCultureChris. Links to both of those are in the description down below. So, for starters, the plot leak that we went over for Captain America New World Order was that during the Eternals, Cersei, while making an effort to save the planet Earth, stopped the Celestial from being born out of the planet Earth. She turned it into this silvery looking thing, as we see in this clip here. Well, it was revealed recently on Twitter that this is adamantium. Now, the details specifically are hard to put together, but the scooper, the insider, went further to say that she didn't turn it into adamantium, that it already was adamantium, and that the death of the Celestial just made it readily available. Now, a lot of people in the comment section of that video who are a little bit more familiar with this metal go in and say, well, you don't just have adamantium. It doesn't exist in nature. It doesn't exist anywhere. It's created. And this is 100% accurate in the comics. This metal doesn't just exist. You can't go mine it like vibranium. It is created. And many people believe that vibranium is even one of the components used to create adamantium. However, what I presume was being stated in this leak, in this scoop, is that the possibility for the creation of adamantium will now be possible because one of the important ingredients, one of the important elements for adamantium to be created resides inside the skeleton of the Celestial. We also talked a little bit about how the Guardians of the Galaxy purchased Nowhere and therefore would also have access to the same metal, but that would also apply to them as well as the same resource. It was recently relayed to us, and I think it's going to be a very important detail, that the Guardians of the Galaxy purchased Nowhere, which is in the skull of a Celestial. That was revealed to us in the holiday special, and it was one of the few details in that holiday special that we got that I think will be carrying over important weight. That, and of course that Mantis is in fact Quill's half-sister, so another important detail that will have some weight for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 or even further down the line for Phases 5 and 6. But if you want my honest opinion about the scoop, the leak for the adamantium coming from the elements of the Celestial from the Eternals, I don't think that this will necessarily have the greatest weight for Phases 5 and 6. It's possible that a weapon will be created to try to defeat Kang or other bad guys as we meet them, but I think the real issue of the New World Order will later on be revealed during Phase 7. And furthermore, the third saga, which recently has been avidly referred to as the Mutant Saga, where Phases 7, 8, and 9 will really focus on mutants in the MCU. I'm sure you've heard the rumors, and if you haven't, there are a ton of rumors going around talking about X-Men joining for Secret Wars. But all of these X-Men in reference are the old X-Men from the Fox universe. And we already know Wolverine, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, will be in Deadpool 3, and I do believe also subsequently in other movies like Secret Wars. And we also know the Fantastic Four are on the table. Any characters really from Sony or Fox or even Marvel Studios past are on the table to make a return in Secret Wars. I don't, however, believe we will be seeing too many mutants from the MCU, from the main timeline. We know Namor and Ms. Marvel even potentially are both mutants, but I don't think they're going to be diving into that. And since we're on the topic of adamantium, we know there's one mutant in particular who goes hand in hand with adamantium, and that's Wolverine, who in some versions of the comics, his entire skeleton is eventually made out of adamantium, that it kind of fuses together. And that's why sometimes in the Fox version of Wolverine, you see his bones coming out as claws, not metal, but they're bones like part of a skeleton. And sometimes you see metal. Well, that metal is adamantium, and it actually soaks into his entire skeleton, making him even more powerful. Now, adamantium, you might ask, well, what exactly is that? I've never read the comics, and it's never showed up in the MCU, so I don't know. Well, it's one of the most strong metals ever recorded in Marvel history. In fact, there's only one metal that is on the record and consistently stronger, and that's referred to as Dragonite. Now, Dragonite has only made a few appearances in a few Alter comics, so a lot of people actually also believe that Dragonite and Eurometal are the same thing, it's just Eurometal from a different universe. So, there is a possibility that weapons like Stormbreaker and Thanos' sword are made out of this Eurometal / Dragonite, according to common comic lore, and that would be considered stronger than adamantium. However, nothing else is consistently stronger than adamantium in the comics. So the assumption is that this will be stronger than vibranium, and it will be stronger than any other metal or alloy that has been created in the MCU, up to potentially Eurometal, depending on how they want to depict the adamantium. It's going to be a central focus, assuming that the New World Order in Captain America is going to be displayed as a huge fight over this resource. Now, the recipe traditionally in Marvel Comics for creating adamantium was one that very few and far knew how to create. It's not going to be necessarily as simple as, okay, go to the Celestial, get yourself a massively strong laser and cut off some adamantium and move on. And many people in the comment section of that original plot video did point this out, and I completely agree based off of what we know about adamantium. It's likely that one of the components, one of the elements that are used to create adamantium will be found at the Celestial, and somebody's going to figure out how to use that resource to create the adamantium. But in the comics, it's a very, very, very expensive piece of metal to create. The common and normal person wouldn't have the resources or the understanding as to how to create it. So you don't just go and pick off a piece of adamantium and you're good to go. You have to have all of the elements, one of which is rumored and believed to be vibranium as well. And then you need to scientifically create adamantium, which will become the strongest metal on Earth. This eventually can lead to different conflicts with mutants, with X-Men, with governments across the world, and with characters who are already in the MCU. Something that is very exciting about Marvel moving forward is we're very excited for the X-Men, but I myself am excited for the X-Men coupled with other Marvel characters. Recently, in the last 20 years, we've seen X-Men just with X-Men. Now we have the opportunity to see them interact with the Avengers, to see them interact with the Fantastic Four and other characters within the envelope of the MCU. So it won't just be the X-Men running around, although I do think for at least the majority of Phase 7 and maybe even the multitude of the next saga, it's going to be all mutants all the time. But we're going to have an opportunity to see that collaboration happen in a very fluid manner. And I believe that adamantium is going to be a very important central part of that, as will be put on display in Captain America New World Order. But let me know what you think. What other details about adamantium do you remember from the comics, and what questions about adamantium do you have? Leave all of your guys' thoughts, questions, and reasoning in the comment section down below, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.